EIGA, which is a designers sort of organization, and also Newsweek. The popular serif typefaces for body copy are Georgia and Times New Roman. The most popular sans serif typefaces are Arial, Verdana, and Lucida Grande. And you notice that they're actually very similar between body copy and headlines. It's because of different browsers. And right now on the web, there's something going on where there's a certain set of fonts that people can use because these font typefaces span across from PC to like Mac. And maybe you might see one set of typefaces on the Mac that you won't actually see on the PC. So when you're designing, you have to consider those things. You may design with a really fancy font, but if your user doesn't have that font, what are they going to see? So these kinds of fonts have to be sort of streamlined for the web, and that's why you don't see too many crazy fonts on the web. They're pretty standard. And so the web is actually changing its format to include ways to go out of the box of what these fonts are. Now we have we have study also on headlines and also body copy size font, and the average that they found for headlines is 25.6 pixels. For you guys who use Word, maybe you guys type in 12 pixels as an average, which is also the average of most body copy on the web. But imagine that's, they don't need too big of a size for the web because you're so close to your medium. But those are some statistics that I found when using headlines and also body copy. Now we go to the section, good type versus bad type. This was a really fun section for me because there's so much bad typography out there in the world, and you wonder like, why is that? And I was thinking about, why does that happen? Well, because not everyone's a designer. Not everyone has that eye for space and just learning all these rules, right? You have to like really spend time and craft, because before there were computers, which is my first reason, which destroyed, which made good design. People really cared for typefaces, and they would carve them into these metal squares by which the press was made. This is movable type, and so the people who created typefaces really cared and made these typefaces appropriate for the content that was made. And so with the advent of computers, people created all these crazy typefaces, and just like cable, you have so many channels, you don't really know what to watch, and all the channels become kind of meaningless. In the same way, computers created even more, even although they gave us freedom to create things, on the fly, people started to lose their understanding of why fonts were created, and so that's why there's so much bad typography. It's because people don't care about type, which is not really on the forefront of most people's minds, because they just want to type something and get out. But that transition from analog to like digital really separated good typography from bad. And so that's why there's a lot of bad typography out there. The third reason is that there's no respect for rules, because they don't know rules. They just know, I just want to make things look cool. But their definition of cool is very subjective, Like, I'll show you some examples of bad. Yeah, it's wrong. So unless there are certain rules, they just do whatever they want. And the fourth is the plethora of typefaces. When you have the creation of Comic Sans and all these, Wingdings and Zappino and all that kind of stuff, and it's like, unless you know why it's used, or like, there's a reason for your use, or if it's appropriate to use, it's just you know, you're just choosing it just because you think it's cool or good looking. All right. So with the prevalence of bad typography, it's kind of hard to distinguish what is good and bad typography. An example would be of bad typography is the use of Comic Sans for professional documents. Now, you would never use Comic Sans for professional documents, and I see people like shaking their heads because why? The personality of the typeface is comical, and if you were to use this for your law firm, for example, nobody would take you seriously. The subject of law is like crisp, is black and white, or you know, like it is serious. It's a serious subject. So using Comic Sans would not be a good type sort of decision because it's just not appropriate for the subject. So let's see and analyze some examples. So brace your eyes, okay? Yeah, I had to limit my time on these bad examples because I just could not take it. But, for example, this one, it says, welcome, we care. Now, for somebody who would walk in the store, it's like, okay, welcome, great. I like that, but we care in these aren't actually parentheses, but these are actually double primes. Parentheses actually have the, you know, comma, like, it's like an upside down comma. It actually has a loop, you know?
Do you mean quotations?
Quotations, yeah. But these are actually inch marks. So not only is that wrong, but the we care is very sarcastic. So in that way, I find that to be a very,
we care.
you know, a very poor example of typography.
Yeah.
I care about you.
Yeah.
I care about your learning.
And your
This
parents.
one, this one that I found was from a pho restaurant. It says just pho and more, but it's not just pho anymore. So I don't know. Like your message conflicts with you know your restaurant. So the message is a little confusing. So that's bad typography. This one below it is called. It's supposed to be wireless accessories, but because you know it's separated from wireless.
How do you
wireless accessories? This is where proximity comes into place.
It has no anger.
Right. It has no
accessories.
because the distance is so far, you don't associate it with it. In other words, and not only that, it's in a different typeface than this. So it's poor decision of the designer, whoever designed it.
W's wireless
Yeah.
accessories.
Terrible.
W wireless accessories. Yeah.
It's W.
I don't know this one. So in this example, we have Crawford Wilcox Opticians, and you know they probably would have used the same thing if this thing was longer. So what they did was they squeezed the font, and maybe some of you do that. You know, when you don't have enough space, you squeeze it together. But that's not condensing. That's not a condensed type. That's just you squeezing the type together, which is a huge no-no. And this is a bad misuse of scale. Now we go into the good type. Now this is an example from The Economist that I found has always been doing. You know, their ads are very type-based and they use great scale. So this one is about what's the worst thing to lose when we get older? Our hair, our teeth, or our curiosity? So the way they use type, you know, they use it as building blocks, as like a kid would, you know, when they're building stuff, and it has a childlike attitude. So because based on those things, this typography, had it not been that subject, would not have been appropriate for the message. So this is why I consider this to be an example of good type, and why I kind of like that one. This one is an example that typography is used appropriately when you first read the legible type, and then as a first, the hierarchy is this, right? Because it's legible. And then you realize, you know, this is like kids writing, and so it's an imitation. So the message is reinforced that because of your behavior, your kids will follow the same exact thing. And so typographically, this is, you know, standard, but this is typed as well, you know, and you can read it, and it's appropriate to what the message is. This one is an example of a website, and this is what previously I was talking about when there's a hierarchy to the content, and there's scale, and there's proximity. All these things are considered in a website, and especially in websites, because you read this first, right? And then you read this, and this is close to this. You read this block together. Proximity brings all this close. So you know that all these things are connected. These are connected, you know, these are connected, these are connected. So all those principles that I told you about before is typography. This is the realization of the typographic rules. These are different examples that I found that I thought were, you know, good examples. You have typefaces, right? And to say, like, this kind of stuff by itself, you have no context by which, you know, it appears. If you didn't have the image, or you didn't know what not a surf was, you know, if you didn't know that they were a musical band. But within the context, it gives more meaning. Kind of like Helvetica is like vanilla, but if you add stuff to it, it starts taking on a personality. And some fonts have a personality of their own. Like Clockwork Orange was created distinctly for that movie. And if you know, it's a very kind of kooky, very dark, kooky movie. These little things, just, you know, they're typefaces made to be playful, and so they're appropriate for it. And so these are more examples, like for example, like fat letters using, you know, for that you are fat. That makes it appropriate. Yeah, if it was written in a skinny type, it's like it wouldn't make sense, and if anything, it would be contradictory. And then this one was the shirt that I found. Yes, we kern. And so kerning, remember, is the space between each letter. So they probably together.
He's wearing a shirt.
See, it is some big space there. Oh wait, so, oops. Alright, so I'm going to show you guys a motion piece that uses all typography. It is, you know, it portrays emotion, embodying personality without extensive imagery. It allows the viewer to create the scene for themselves. And this one is an excerpt from Pineapple Express.
No, man. He fucking killed him, man!
Jeez, that gamer.
He fucking killed him!
What? Who killed him?
A cop! A lady and a guy!
A cop, a lady, and a guy, man, that's like a mess. You saw it?
No, it was just a guy!
What happened to the lady?
No! A woman! A policewoman! And a guy! Another guy shot another guy, an Asian guy, in the window at fucking Ted's house!
Was the other guy Ted?
I don't know, he was a big, gray-haired man and he had a robe and he fucking took a gun and shot him and his brain fucking flew out! I throw it.
What?
Sick.
Printer.
I did.
Did you break it?
I hope not.
Was
So
that actually
that-
in the movie?
Huh?
Was that actually in the movie?
That was actually in the movie, yes.
Oh, wow.
So
That's too stoned.
someone, you know, took all this and made conscious design, you know, decisions to make type big, small. Notice that there was two kinds of typefaces. Do you guys want me to repeat this to see? To get another look? No? Okay. But they used all these principles that I had mentioned to make this really successful. I mean, you don't even need to see the movie, but you could imagine like what these things look like, because these words had personality, scale. To be like, he's like whispering because he's kind of buzzed, or I mean, so high, and the guy's like screaming, right? So the scale of big words. So that was a really good example and of type in motion, and also just the use of typography.